Welcome to the Catbird Quilts. I'm Kathy Martin. Today's video is an on my sewing table, and I have a lot to show you and a lot to say about it. So let's do it. So this past week, in an effort to stay off of social media, I drug out my WIP basket. If you don't know what a WIP is, works in progress, i.e., a whole bunch of stuff that needs some attention. So I pulled my basket out and rooted through to see what was needing some attention. And it turns out there were a couple of projects at least that were like this close to either being done or being bumped to the next step. And so I spent a little time on my day off and started cutting and piecing and making design decisions. And I wanted to show you some of what I'm working on. So the first is a project that no one has seen on YouTube, largely because I talked so much about the comfort quilt, the linen comfort quilt that I made myself. I thought maybe everyone would be sick of it. But it turns out I made another one for my sister with all of the beige, cream, tan, peach linens that I had. I made her a twin size bed quilt. And I had some blocks left over because I had a moment where I wasn't exactly sure what size. So I made extra blocks. And I just kind of threw them in my WIP basket with the thought of I'll figure out what to do with them later. So I got them out and realized that they're just about the right size for a pillow sham. And so here are the blocks. These are the linen blocks that I had left over. This polka dot fabric was a sheet. Actually, it was a whole sheet set. And I used the flat sheet for the backing for her quilt. And I still had a lot of it left. I have a pillowcase and then a whole fitted sheet still left. So I got out one of my pillowcases, laid it out, kind of just guessed at the size, and I have made the top of what will be a pillow sham. So what I'm going to do to finish this up is put a flannel backing on it and quilt just where the linen pieces are. So I hate stitching in the ditch, but I probably will stitch in the ditch and then just do a cross, like a, cross hatch through the linen parts, leaving the border unquilted. And then this thing over here that you might have thought was an ace bandage, because it looks like an ace bandage, but it's actually kind of caramel colored linen that I have made binding out of. And this will be the binding for it. And so that's kind of what that will look like. And look at me trying to actually do binding without doing binding. Bless my heart. So that will be that. And then what will be on the back will be a big solid piece of this matching sheet. So the front of the pillow sham will match the top of the quilt, and the back of the pillow sham will match the back of the quilt, if that makes any sense. Anyway, looking forward to that. And I was surprised at how quickly this came together. It's just been languishing in my WIP basket. It's funny how that happens. It's like it just got to the place I didn't have the room to make the decision about it. And then all of a sudden last week I had space to make design decisions. And so as soon as I made the decision, gosh, it just so I spent a half a day doing all the cutting of the design decisions that I made. And now with the little courthouse steps assembly, I have I guess it's still a quilt top, but a pillow sham top ready to go. So this sea of gray is brought to you by the Quilty Stars quilt top behind me. The quilt top has been done 4 months and months. forever is how long the quilt top has been done. If you've been with me, I've been working on this quilt for quite some time for Paul, and I knew it was going to be a long-term project because I used collars and cuffs and yokes of shirts for all the pieces in the Quilty Stars. By the way, Quilty Stars by Emily Dennis of Quilty Love. I loved making it. You've probably seen it on the design wall behind me. I just can't tell the whole long sorted story about coming up with the backing because it's just too much. We'll have to wait till it's all done, and that will be in the quilt story. Suffice it to say that after lots of trying to figure out what would be the best plan for the backing, we decided on shirts because they're soft and light and often smooth as well. Then it was a matter of the color, which actually that decision was made easily and quickly. We made that decision months ago and months ago. Then it was a matter of like, okay, how, which, and how. It reminds me of the Richard Scarry, who, what, when, where, why, how. So that was really what happened with the backing. And so what happened with the backing was absolutely nothing. The quilt top and some of the shirts went into a plastic bag in the whip basket to disappear for a minute or two. And this week, while I was avoiding social media, I went to the Goodwill just to see what they had and found a light gray shirt that may be the softest shirt that I have ever felt in my life. It is this dark one here that's actually two-toned, two-sided. And interestingly enough, this has nothing to do with what's on my sewing table, but I just find this fascinating. It's two very thin pieces of fabric stitched together. What in the world? Whose idea was that? It's almost like gauze. It's just, and not like the ace bandage kind, like the gauzy baby blanket kind of thing. So it's super soft. And I bought it, of course, because it was super soft and 100% cotton. And while I had my whip basket out, when I pulled out the quilt top and some of the shirts, and I had the feeling, I was like, I have to tackle this. So what this is a quilt backing made out of shirt backs. Gosh, that's a lot of back. Baby got back. When you have a shirt back, because it's an odd shape, sometimes it's like if you have to cut strips out of it, oh, okay. If you have to cut 5-inch squares out of it, okay. Take all these and make a whole quilt back out of it. Oh, okay. So what I did is I laid the shirt down and cut the largest piece that I could out of the shirt back, which surprisingly, somewhat uniform, 17 inches by 21 inches. That was the size that seemed to work for every shirt. And then you can see I put them in a hopefully pleasing arrangement. This is part of the blocks. The other ones are here in my lap, hiding away. And let me just tell you, this is that thing that I often say about matching fabrics within a color. There are blue grays and there are green grays and there are pink grays. And so part of my trouble has been getting grays that I felt like work together. This is actually white with a gray print on it. Here's another shirt, more piecing. And so I have been just kind of throwing shirts that I thought would go together in the grays in my little plastic bag of shirt backs, and just took some time and, mixed and matched and found ones that felt like they worked. And so now I have all these pieces, which don't look at all that exciting right now, but some of them are the softest thing. And I didn't have quite enough to cover the entire quilt back in a way that would be either symmetrical or especially pleasing to me. And so what I decided to do was to split up the gray with a navy ribbon running through. It's not really middle, it's like 2/3. And then another navy ribbon to tie in the front across on the horizontal. And so that's what this will look like. So this is the width of one of the ribbons. And so you will see this all together at some point, probably in a quilt story. But just getting this far, getting the pieces cut out of the back and then arranging them in a way that worked, and then just starting the sewing process, I feel so accomplished. I have been a little bit regretful slash personally shamed by the fact that I have waited so long to get here, but I'm having to remind myself, and I am actually reminding myself and trying to assimilate this reminder that I really wasn't ready before now. I didn't have the either mental or emotional or time space to work it out. And one of the things that finally worked was just getting those shirts out and going, okay, how can I make this stop looking like a shirt and get as big a piece as possible so that then I know what I'm working with. And that was really the thing that turned the corner for me. And now I'm excited about this project again. Like when we get done with this video, I'll probably will put all the lighting and camera and everything away, and I'll get my sewing machine back out and finish putting it together. And so in 24 hours, I'll have a whole quilt back that has taken me months to get here. But instead of being on myself about it, it's like, and now it is the season and time to finish this up. So that's really exciting. Those are the two big projects. Well, I mean, the pillow shame is not really big, but this one was a big project that has just kind of been occupying space. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like taking up emotional and mental energy. And so now that I've freed that up and I know what I'm doing, it's making space for other projects that I want to tell you about. So before I tell you about this nice pile of flannel, stay to the end if you're interested in the holiday projects that I have coming up and something I've never done before. So stay tuned. This is a gray flannel sheet that I bought from the thrift store for a song. It has almost like a herringbone pattern in it. And then we recently redid the design wall in our dining room, and we covered it in a flannel sheet, in a white flannel sheet. And since when you buy flannel sheets, they usually come in pairs, this is the second of the pair. And so I've been really wanting to make a quilt that largely, if not solely, uses flannel because I haven't worked with flannel a lot. I really want to make a for real life quilt out of it so that I can learn, just like I have with linen and twill and very high thread count fine men's shirts, kind of the characteristics of that fabric so that I can either pass that information along to you or decide, yes, I like flannel, or no, not so much. My instinct is really not to be a flannel person. I don't know what it is about it. I just don't love it. But I think from a memory shirt standpoint, there are so many men's flannel shirts and pajamas and sheets and very often plaid. And so I want to have some experience and knowledge with that, which if you saw my previous flannel video, you'll know I'm starting the experimentation process. But you can't really experiment unless you make a quilt. So these two fabrics are hopefully going to become the knitted star quilt pattern from Lo and Behold Stitchery. The instant I saw that quilt, I was like, oh, because I also knit. I mean, and I especially liked the 2-color version. So, of course, I got the pattern. And as I have been thinking about how to do it for myself and the color that I want to use and how I want to go about it, I have had this thought, what would it be like to introduce a third color into the pattern? Because she presents in her pattern the two-tone, which is like white or cream and something else. And then she has a modern, which is a bunch of different colors together. But there are cornerstones in the sashing. And to me, it's like the perfect opportunity to do something interesting and either a little bit of a contrast. You see me bringing it forward. This is one of my most favorite shirts that I have ever bought. Actually, I didn't buy it. Someone gave it to me. So let me not take credit. One of the patrons sent the shirt to me. It is just really interesting and lovely. And the knitted star quilt pattern is on the bias. So it's done on point. So it's a square block, but then when you sew it, it becomes a diamond. And this fabric seemed to really kind of follow that theme. And so I'm on the fence about it. I'll be honest with you, because it is just well, it's not a quilting cotton. It's a shirt fabric. But because I've broken the shirt down and now I have it like this, it's quilting cotton to me. So it's 100% cotton shirt. I'm not sure how that will go. So everything will be flannel except for these cornerstones. And there's a part of me that's like, maybe that's exactly what I need to do, because if you're going to use shirts and you're going to use thrifted fabric, there are going to be times that you have different substrates together in the quilt. Does it work or does it not work? So probably start with a block. I used to resent the practice block. Now I'm all about it. So I'll probably make a practice block. If it works poorly, it will become a pillow cover. Or a pillow sham. But if it comes together, I think it could be really beautiful. And since we're right here in the turn, kind of starting to close out fall and enter the holiday season, I think this is going to be my winter project. So it will be this lovely, almost snowflakey feel. Snowflakey? I don't know. Anyway, so starting new project, and we'll see how that goes. And I'm sure I will be reporting. And if you're wondering, yes, I'm going to start at least part of it to see if that's effective or just plain annoying. So stay tuned. I will let you know. So now on to the holiday projects. And speaking of flannel, if you saw my flannel video, I started an advent calendar with plaid flannel from shirts. And I don't want to say it was a failure, but it was not going according to plan. It was going to be very large, and wall hanging they're kind of mutually exclusive. In going through the whip basket, I decided that I would seam rip what I had and rethink it, which is what I have done here, as you see. And these are marked up. But so I redesigned my tree to be narrower, far narrower, much more tall and skinny, and less big, fat, wide tree. I mean, it was really, he was hefty. It was kind of a trick to get it to, it's getting the 25. Like, the way I had it, it worked out perfectly. It was like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, done. Awesome. One at the bottom. Fantastic. But that made it like this. And the more fabric I put in the middle, it definitely made it taller, but then it lost its shape. So I redesigned it and added a star at the top and then a little tree trunk. So this is my new tree that I'm working with. Although I'm not really sure why I did it in green, because these are red, but that's okay. So this is what I'm working with now. Would have another row and another. So clearly I'm finally getting the height right without getting too wide. I haven't quite decided on the in-betweens, as you can see, but I still am just absolutely delighted beyond words about this little pocket. I don't know why that's just happiness to me, but you can kind of see how it's coming together, or at least how it's supposed to be coming together. So I'm going to be getting this together. And if it comes together and I'm pleased with it, which is a very big if, I'm going to put together a PDF pattern for it. So if I can get my rear end in gear and also figure out how to do a pattern and also figure out how to describe how to do it and get the math right. It's a lot of ifs, really. But anyway, so if I get it together and if I like it and I'm pleased with it, I'm going to make this available as a PDF on my Patreon. So look for that, if patrons, if you're watching this, and if you want to come along and join us, it'll be there. So say prayers, send energy, vibes, and good feelings. Bad, what is it? Good vibes. I almost said bad vibes only. That's terrible. Good vibes only. All of that, and maybe this will come together into something usable and shareable. We'll see. So here's my second holiday project. I think I mentioned this in the Christmas in July. This is a placemat, and I was working with a different, my practice one was a little more of a cherry red. This is a very bright, I call it micro corduroy. It's that really teeny tiny, like itty bitty whale. Is that not the spray? Okay, yeah, whale. So the grooves in it. I have finished this one, and I had talked about doing the button crested, which sounds kind of strange, as a placemat. And if I had a plate, I would put it down so you could see the plate does not actually have to sit on the buttons. And I'm loving it, except buttons take a long time to stitch down, even if you're doing it haphazardly, which is kind of how I've been doing it. I've definitely got them stitched down, but they are not like, I'm not winning any awards with how I'm stitching these down. I have quilted it. I did quilt it in the same thread, so you may not be able to see it, but it's on the line. It's an inch apart on the line of the tree. Actually, let me see if it's on the back. Yes. So you can see the way I finished the placemat is I did it I think it's called the turned method, where you basically sew it like a pillow, right sides together, and then you turn it inside out. And then whatever you didn't stitch, kind of fold that in and stitch that down. So that's the construction of it. And then I did do that diagonal kind of straight line quilting. And I really have loved it, and I think this will look great if I were to, a lot of ifs. It's the if video. If I were to finish this out. But it's funny because I was talking to my sister about it, and she was like, you really could just take out some of this middle, which even just the suggestion, I was like, are you serious? But she was like, and just follow up the edge. So just kind of have like a little gathering of buttons along the edge instead of filling the whole entire space, which is a wonderful suggestion. It does not respect the fact that I have spent several evenings stitching all these buttons down. And I stitched for probably an hour one night, and I had 18 buttons to show for it, and like maybe this much space. I was like, oh boy, this was not what I meant. And so what I have considered / decided is on this one, I have not decided if I'm going to actually seam rip these and pick them out, or if I'm just going to move on with my life. And on this one, I'm going to do the exact same quilting. By the way, here's the before quilting and turning. So you can see it's a little, slightly bigger because of the seam allowance. But I'm going to do the exact same quilting. And then I'm considering doing some cream quilting on the same diagonal, and then coming back and doing that diagonally, and then just stitching, hence the buttons, stitching the buttons along where those lines might cross. So for example, if this is the quilting line going up on that diagonal like this, and then it crosses back like this, almost like a harlequin, so diamonds, then everywhere that they cross, put a button that way. And it would obviously be far fewer buttons, AKA a lot less time. And I think it would show off the quilting perhaps a little better. And also, just did I mention it would take less time? I think I did mention, in fact, that it would take less time. So it would be more of like a smattering of buttons, except in an orderly fashion. And I think that could be really pretty. I also think it would probably work a lot better in terms of actual placemat usage. So, for example, when your Uncle Larry spills spaghetti sauce on holiday placemats and you go to throw them in the washer, this is likely to come cleaner than this will because all those buttons, might trap the food and stain. So, yeah, this is a pattern of my own design. And so I have the dimensions, again, the big if, but we're Paul and I, working diligently to get this put together in a usable PDF format. And again, we'll make that available on Patreon. So that's kind of exciting. And you can see I'm now wanting to put all of the buttons in my hand on this because I'm a little bit of a crazy person, but I can see how orderly and sweet that will be. And that's why I'm struggling to complete the video and instead put together the, I know. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments. If everyone's like, no way, then I might not go to the trouble. But if you're interested in the PDF pattern for these, let me know. You can also weigh in what you think about the little yellow shirt fabric with the gray and white knitted star flannel quilt that I'm considering, and really anything else you want to share. I'm always thankful for the comments, for all of you watching, for your support. It means the world to me. So thanks for being with me today. I hope, if nothing else, it's given you some encouragement to get in that whip basket of your own and make some progress on projects that need new life again. I'm Kathy Martin. This is the Catbird Quilts. Thanks so much for watching.